If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top. The best sports radio in Utah is right here, right here. This is Scotty G and the coach, Tim LaCoe, on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Am I supposed to know this one? You said it's a viral song right now?
It's big on Instagram right now.
Oh,
There's a movie with Shirley Theron and what is that?
Monster?
No. Anyways, it's a thriller, and he starts dancing like this. I'll send the video to you. You're like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hey, by the way, I had to go check and make sure this wasn't an AI. I know we're going to have Cole Bagley here in a second, but Tony Finau is seen working on a putting green with a long putter. Like, Tony, no, don't be that guy.
Just don't. Mike Smith is the forward facing. Have you seen that one?
No.
Where they stand.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And use it like a.
When people move to the long putter, I feel like that's when their game is lost.
Like, Tony, don't go, man.
I feel like that's when it's lost.
Said Finau.
I can't find my putting stroke, so I got a long putter.
Finau said he spent 45 minutes getting the upper hand in a position that felt comfortable. Hasn't used a long putter before. Said there's a first time for everything. Wow.
Hey, is that show called Apex? Yeah. I almost watched that. I watched the most disturbing. So I don't know why I've gone down this rabbit hole. We probably have Cole.
No, he's you got about a minute or
okay.
so.
No, I just jumped into I've been studying offshoot cult groups.
Yeah.
And just it's so wild to me to see what people will do.
Like normal, educated, rational people can fall victim to some of the weirdest things.
So if you have HBO Max, I mean, just be ready because you got to be ready for it because it's a little out there. But it's called The Cult of Mother God.
The Cult of Mother God.
Yeah. And it is
sounds like a metal band.
It is, yeah, it does actually. But it was, I've watched a ton of them, like, all the Waco stuff, the Jonestown, all that. Yeah. This one, woo.
Really? So
they
even
play that music to it.
It went above and beyond those.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Joining us now, he is our NHL Mammoth insider and overall good dude. Cole Bagley, kind enough to join us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cole, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Does it feel weird? The season's over. Like you have to reintroduce yourself to the wife and family. Like, what's going through your brain right now? How's life in the Bagley home?
Yeah, it's good. It is a little strange because you go from being at a rink like twice a day, being gone all the time to now. I mean, I don't even know what to do with myself now that there's no Mammoth hockey. And honestly, it's a little bit refreshing. It was a long season, so it's good to have a little bit of time to take a breath.
Cole, what are your general thoughts? I mean, obviously the difficulty of losing a series, nonetheless, definitely a step forward for the Mammoth this year.
Yeah, I think the manner in which they lost that series is tough, and I know that a lot of fans are disappointed and a lot of the players are disappointed, and there's definitely reason to be. I mean, they were seconds away from going up 3-1, and then seconds away from going up 3-2, and just allowed the Knights to hang around, and then experience took over, and so kind of the among other sentiments yesterday, one of the bigger ones was they knew that they could have won that series, and that's why they're frustrated, and there's a little bit of a bitter taste in their mouth. But I think if you take a step back, I think this was a really successful season for Utah. the last 5 years have been all about building towards getting to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And, last year they wanted to play meaningful games and they delivered on that. And then this year they promised that they would get to the postseason and they delivered. And so I think, anything above that was just kind of, the cherry on top, right? Like they not only made the playoffs, but they held their own against a formidable, experienced opponent who has a really good chance to go to the Western Conference Final. And they gained experience. You in order to learn how to win, you have to lose first. And this is how it goes. This is how it's going to be. I mean, there's going to be more pain involved in future seasons like this, but it's all in the grand scheme of things, it's going to help them eventually compete for Stanley Cups. And so, yeah, it's an unfortunate way. I think that the season ended. A lot of those guys expected to at least be playing in a Game 7, and that didn't happen. But like I said, you take a step back, and I think it was really successful, and there's a lot to be excited about and a lot to build on.
Cole Bagley with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. So sometimes teams and organizations overreact to certain things that happen. The power play was abysmal in the playoffs for the Mammoth. And so, obviously there's going to be a lot of evaluation of coaches, of players. Do you anticipate that there'll be some changes of some kind, or does everybody just decompress and run it back as much as possible?
No, I think there will be some changes. I don't know what that's going to look like in regards to potential coaching staff changes, but I'm sure that this roster will look quite a bit different when the season starts back up in September, and not because there's necessarily a need to start trading a bunch of guys, but there's about 6 or 7 guys that are coming off the books, pending free agents, and we'll see what happens. And we were able to talk with all those guys yesterday, and pretty much all of them except for one were unsure of what the future held for them. And that one being Kyler Yamamoto, who said that, he hopes that, potential extension talks will start soon. He wants to come back here. I think that he is one, of those guys that are becoming free agents. I think that he's one that probably has the best chance to return, just based on, he had a heck of a season. He told us yesterday that he proved this year that he belongs in the NHL, and I'd agree with him. Despite being one of the smaller guys, he has a ton of fight in him. He played really well with Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther. I mean, they were arguably, Utah's best line in the playoffs. And Yamamoto was doing a lot of the dirty work, a lot of the work that kind of goes unseen. But, in terms of the other players, the Alexander Kerfoots and Ian Coles and Nick DeSimones and Kevin Stenlund's, Vitek Vanacek's, I think, Utah's going to have to kind of look at how effective were those players for them in the postseason. How many of those guys does it make sense to bring them back? Because, it's no longer about, just working towards the playoffs. It's no longer about playing meaningful hockey down the stretch. It's about getting to the postseason and building from there. And I think what this first-round series kind of taught Utah was, there's a good core in place, but there's some very specific areas where they're going to need to improve. And so I would expect that, in order to address those areas, that, there's probably a couple of guys that are pending free agents that are not going to be offered contracts because, I just think maybe that they're not that they're bad players, but they're just not helping Utah in a way that they need to in order to continue to progress.
So I made the joke because my kid wants to buy a Yamamoto jersey. That's his favorite player. And so I told him, like, hey, you got to hold off on that a little bit. And I made that joke with Bill Armstrong. And Bill, he laughed a lot, but you can tell that's not a guy you want to play poker with because he's not about to tip his hand on anything. But look, we are a Kyler Yamamoto fan group on this show. We are the president of his fan club. We need to get him back in Utah. I can't imagine the price tag's that hefty. Do you feel like he is somewhat of a priority for this organization?
Yeah, I do. Like I was talking about, I think there's quite a few of the pending free agents. It feels like they've kind of served their time and served their purpose with this team. And I think if you look at kind of not only the grand body of work over the course of the season, but especially in the playoffs, the one that really stands out to me is Yamamoto. I mean, he has so much fight in him. He battles relentlessly. I think he led the Utah in hits in one of the games. I think he had like 7, 8, or 9 hits. I want to say it was game 3 or game 4. He was out there, and as the smallest guy on the ice, it doesn't matter to him. And he just has that relentless, drive. He fears nobody, and he's effective. It's not like he's just flying around out there doing nothing. He's making plays. He's creating turnovers. He's generating dangerous scoring chances. He's helping develop, I think, a lot of the young guys on the team. So I would anticipate that there is definitely an interest for this organization to bring him back. And he told us that he loves it here. He really appreciates the organization. He loves the city, and he wants to come back. So if it doesn't happen, I'd be surprised.
Buy the jersey, Scotty.
Nice.
Is what he's saying.
Let's go.
Yeah,
like
I think we can buy it. So of that list of pending free agents, who would you be surprised would be back?
That's a good question. I think I'd be surprised if Vitek Vanacek came back. I just don't think it was a good fit. The goaltender pool of free agents last year was not as deep, and I think Utah's in an interesting situation because they've got their guy for right now, right? They extended Karel Vejmelka for about 5 years. They paid him a lot of money. He's their guy for right now, for what they're trying to accomplish. But then they've got this young kid, Michael Rabel, one of their prospects, who is now done with college. He's playing in Tucson. And so Utah's in a situation where they kind of have to continue to buy time because there's a belief that Rabel is the goalie of the future for this organization. And if his timeline hits the way it should, he very well could be the goaltender that helps Utah win a Stanley Cup, or at least puts them in situations to win Stanley Cups. And so Utah has to kind of be careful in terms of, they might just have to take it a year at a time. We might see multiple backup goaltenders, but I just don't know that Vanacek, was really what they were looking for. He didn't play a lot of games. There clearly wasn't confidence in him to be able to do that job and to help out Vejmelka. And so I would be surprised if they brought him back. I would assume that they're going to look at the goaltender pool this year and see if there's somebody that will better serve that backup position and help take some of that load off of Vejmelka. And then I look at 2 other players, Ian Cole, phenomenal guy, one of my favorite guys to talk to on the team because he's just a straight shooter, and he's a veteran. He sees the game incredibly well. I think he's one of those players that I think should seriously consider coaching whenever his playing career is done, because he just sees it so well. The amount of times that I sat down next to him in the locker room and would just kind of pick his brain and talk to him about what he was seeing and what have you. He taught me a lot about the game and just all the extra details. But with that being said, I believe he's 38 going on 39. And again, I kind of just go back to Utah is going into a phase of you need to consistently make the postseason, and not only make the postseason, but win games. And not that Cole, again, he's not a bad player, but it's hard to expect, a veteran of that age to really help push you, where you need to go. I would argue that maybe his role and his time has, potentially expired. And then another guy I look at is Alexander Kerfoot, another, older veteran that I think he's just kind of fulfilled his purpose. He played some good hockey, but he's been injured quite a lot. And again, into the playoffs, he just didn't really move the needle. He didn't really do a whole lot to help this team. And as I've said several times, I just think that Utah needs to look at this roster and go, okay, we've got a core that's going to get us to the playoffs. But if we want to go beyond that, we've got to start surrounding them with, the types of players that are going to help push us over the top, that are going to help us be more physical, that are going to help us, play a grittier style game, and they're going to present us with more size. And so those are probably the 3 that I would be somewhat surprised if they do bring them back. But time will tell, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, you mentioned Rabel. I watched some of him this weekend, and obviously the thing that stands out is his size. He'd make him. the second tallest goalie to play in the NHL. He's 6'6", but definitely moves around well. What is the thought? Is it that Mahiman would come up and back up Veggie, or as you said, do they still want to buy time?
Yeah, goaltenders are just different in terms of timelines when it comes to prospects. I mean, if you're picking a guy who's not a generational talent in the first round, so like a TJ Gimma or Cole Bagley or Caleb Denoyer, usually even for first-round picks, unless they're the Connor Bedards or the Macklin Celebrinis or the Matthew Schaefers, those guys generally take 2, 3, and even 4 years on the longer end to be ready for the National Hockey League. Whereas goaltenders, you're lucky if you can get them at 4 or 5 years. It's generally a 5, 6, and even 7-year process, because goaltending, there's such a serious jump from juniors to, some of these guys go and play college to, the AHL or the ECHL, and then of course to the National Hockey League. Now there are exceptions, but Michael Rabel, I think he's getting close. Obviously he has just finished college. He was absolutely phenomenal for his college club, and he's another Czech goaltender. Utah loves their Czech goaltenders, and he was just absolutely unbelievable at the World Juniors 2 years in a row for his country. Like you said, I mean, he's a big guy. He covers a lot of net, but I think what really makes him an elite prospect is he combines his size with just unbelievable athleticism. I mean, he's a big guy who can move very quickly. He covers so much of his crease and so much of his net, very, very well, very fast. He's really tough to beat. And so for Utah, now that he's signed with Tucson, I would imagine that they want to see how he can do with a full year in the AHL under his belt. Now, if he goes into the AHL and suddenly, he's above 900 save percentage and is allowing less than 2.5 goals per night, Utah might look at that and go, okay, let's give him a shot. Let's see what he can do at the National Hockey League level. But I would anticipate that we'll see Rabel probably play the majority of the year, if not the entire season, in Tucson, unless he just forces his way onto the team. That's the only way I could see him coming up a year from now. So I think that's why they'll need to look at the free agent pool and see if there's another goaltender that they can just kind of bring in as a one year rental until they know where Rabel sits and when he's ready.
So everybody said the right things yesterday, but where's the organization with JJ Peterka? Where's he at with them? Is this something that they can overcome, or just how difficult is this situation?
It's a tough one. It's you look at that trade, and of course, I think every GM in the league would have taken that deal. And it's funny because the deal was more so centered around Kesselring for Peterka, and then Josh Stone was just kind of a sweetener, just kind of all right, you want an extra guy, we'll give you Josh Stone to kind of put this deal over the top, and you get two solid players while we get what appears to be an elite up and coming player. I mean, he had 68 points for Buffalo last season, and then I don't even think he surpassed 40. And then he was just kind of a ghost in the playoffs. And I think for Peterka, it's entirely salvageable. I mean, it was his first year with a new organization, a different style of offense, different players, lots of speed. And I think if you look at it, he just never really found his role. He bounced around the lines a lot. He went from there was so much hope and anticipation for him to play with Gunther and Cooley, and it just didn't really turn out. And then, they tried him on the third line. I think he even tried to play on the top line for a couple of games, and then it was down to the fourth, and then back to the second, and then the third, and then, to drop to the fourth line in the playoffs and to get benched, that's tough. That kind of just goes to show that there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect in terms of, what the coaches expect him to be capable of. There's a disconnect in terms of, what he feels capable of. I'm sure it rattled his confidence to go from, feeling on top of the world, getting traded to a team, that you feel like you can make an impact, and they sign you to a decent extension, making a good amount of money every year. They need to figure this out. I think it's okay that it kind of went the way that it did in year one, but if they can't figure things out relatively quickly stepping into year two, then there's going to need to be some accountability. There's going to need to be some serious talks, because Peterka is seen as a big part of this team's future. I mean, he's 23, he'll be turning 24. He's one of the brightest, young German players in the league, and expectations are for him to be in the top 6. So, everybody has a down year. If you looked at last season, Lawson Krause had a horrible year, but then he came back and, he put in the work, and he was arguably one of Utah's best players, not only in the regular season, but he was arguably their best player in the playoffs. So it's entirely salvageable, but it's going to take the right mindset and the right conversations to happen in order for him to bounce back.
For those of us stuck in NBA lingo, and those numbers are exorbitant compared to the NBA or to the NHL, but the Mammoth with roughly, about $16 million in cap space going into the offseason, just how significant of a number is that compared to other teams around the league?
Yeah, it's a good amount. It's not the most money in the league, but it's probably it puts Utah in a better situation, I would say, than probably most teams. It just depends on what they want to do with it. That could get you, another top 6 kind of guy, or that could get you a handful of depth pieces. It just depends on what the Mammoth feel like they need to do. And it's also going to be interesting because, does Utah, Bill has been known to make most of his big trades in the summer. And there's going to be some interesting sweepstakes, I think, in terms of players who, suddenly become available. There are some teams out there that probably need to start thinking about blowing up their main core or retooling or, starting from scratch. And there's some good players that could, suddenly come on the trade block. Guys like Austin Matthews and Brady Tkachuk. And it'll be interesting to see, what Tampa Bay does. And, the Toronto Maple Leafs as a whole, it's a disaster situation in Toronto. And, I think if Toronto was smart, they probably would put all of their top players up for sale, and that includes, William Nylander and Matthew Nyes and John Tavares. There's always, plenty of guys that become available that you didn't know were even, on the trade block. So, for Utah, they have a good amount of money. They can go out and try to buy, or, they have the ability to, maybe take on some bigger contracts. But, I've said this multiple times, over the last couple of weeks is, I think Bill is stepping into the most challenging part of the rebuild because, he's already, the organization already, sold off all their best players 5 years ago, and they invested in young guys and young prospects like, Keller and Schmaltz. Now those guys are grown up, and, they hit on some draft picks like, Cooley and Gunther, and I think TJ Ginla's going to be a special player, and they've got a couple other top first round picks, Michael Rabel, like we were talking about. But it becomes difficult because you obviously have a very strong core. This is a very good team that could make that could create some serious problems for teams around the league, and maybe 3-4 years from now they could be one of the dominant teams in the Western Conference. But as Bill steps into this summer and next summer and even the following, I think it's a challenge because he has to, these next moves are going to be critical ones. These are going to be the moves that set you up to be successful. And as Utah found out, they have potential, but they're still pretty far away from contending. And so, how does he approach that? Does he look for size? Does he look for more experience? Does he, stick to younger type players like Peterka's, or does he look more for, additional Nate Schmitz or Mikhail Sergachevs? I think that's what's going to make this difficult, but they have the money to go and do, pretty much not anything they want to do, but a good amount.
Before I let you go, I asked Greg Wyshynski this earlier in the show. I want to get your thoughts just from an NHL standpoint. Do you think if they make it to their respective championship or win their respective conferences, Carolina can hang with Colorado in a 7-game series?
for the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
I would favor Colorado, but I think Carolina could make it interesting. I wouldn't expect a sweep by any means, but it wouldn't shock me if Colorado, won in 5 or 6. But it's hockey. It's the National Hockey League. Crazy things happen all the time. Underdogs somehow, are able to upset juggernauts almost every single year, right? I mean, who expected the Ducks to beat the Oilers in the first round? So, I would, like I said, I'd favor Colorado, but, you never know in the National Hockey League, and it wouldn't shock me if Carolina was able to hold their own.
I know that if the best player in the NBA talked like Connor McDavid did yesterday, that would be headline news across all of sports. Just how off the rails are things in Edmonton right now?
I think they're starting to teeter into some dangerous territory. It's almost like in NBA terms, that would be like you had Steph Curry and LeBron James on the same team and they lost in the first round. Like prime, not like today.
Yeah.
Like 6 years ago, LeBron joins the Warriors, or those two guys are on the same teams, and they just can't get over the hump. And this year, when you look at it, I'm honestly not shocked that it happened. Now that you start to consider everything that went into that, I mean, McDavid said that he had like a fracture in his leg or in his foot, and so that totally eliminated his speed, which is what makes him, such a dangerous player. He's played two straight seasons going to the Stanley Cup final, going to a Game 6 and a Game 7, playing for gold at the Olympics, playing at the Four Nations. I mean, this guy has played a ton of hockey at the highest level and just continuously come up short. So it's maybe not as shocking as it first was, but Edmonton needs to figure it out. The fact that both of those guys are saying that they took significant steps back and that Draisaitl was like, look, McDavid signed on for 2 more years, and we don't have that much time to figure it out. And so for Edmonton, they need to take a serious look in the mirror this offseason, figure out what the problems are, which I honestly think it just comes down to a little bit of forward depth and terrible goaltending. I mean, terrible goaltending. So if they can make those proper adjustments, the others can be back at the top very quickly. But if not, I would be shocked if McDavid plays in Edmonton more than 1 year, if they don't at least make it back, maybe even to the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, I just think he's one of the best players, if not the most skilled player to ever play this game. And the fact that they're just wasting his prime years, he's got to be frustrated with that.
Cole, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for your help, and let's talk again here soon.
All right. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Cole.
There he is, Cole Bagley, Mammoth Insider for KSLSports.com. All right, we're going to spin the wheel. Sports Roulette coming up next right here on The Zone.
This is Sports Roulette on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It is time for another edition of Sports Roulette. Some of the bigger headlines we have not had a chance to get to. We even have 4 hours, and we still don't get to everything. So
Crazy how that works.
I know. It's awesome. So with that, Lloyd, fired up. Let's get to it.
Bananas for everyone.
Bananas for everyone. Have you watched these games before?
I have watched them on television. I understand they were here last year.
Yep, and they will be here again this year.
Crazy entertaining, but 102,000 in College Station to see the Savannah Bananas. This guy started it as just a concept in his garage, and he wears the yellow suit and a top hat. But this thing's got legs, man.
They are a huge attraction wherever they go. 102,000 people crammed into that stadium. I was there last year, by the way. Beautiful stadium. Oof. Incredible.
Gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's like there's some stadiums out there like Tennessee's football stadium. It's massive. It looks like a bad home renovation project when they're like, okay, this add-on came in the 90s. Then they did this one. That was back in the 80s. And it just looks like a really bad project. The 2 stadiums that felt like cathedrals, like just college football cathedrals, Nebraska and Texas A&M.
Did you like when they swayed? When they
Oh,
did it?
yeah.
And it looks like the whole stadium's going to tip over.
Yeah, that place is fun.
So years ago when I was in college, a couple of buddies and I would go every year to a different big game, or try to. And one of the years we went and watched Notre Dame at A&M.
Oof.
And it was incredible. We had great seats, but that's when I'd heard about it and seen it on television. But they do a phenomenal job of supporting those Aggies.
And the way that stadium's built, I mean, it's just so vertical.
Yeah, you're looking straight down.
Yeesh. You get sick up there on that upper deck.
Aggies got rolled pretty good there.
Yeah.
I got a good paycheck.
Texas A&M's a pretty good team. So the Savannah Bananas, 102,000. They will be at America First Field coming up later on in the summer. Maybe we'll find a way to get some tickets for that one. All right, Lloyd, spin it.
Ladies' Day at the Kentucky Derby.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hello, I'm here during the lunch rush with Janice, who owns her own food truck.
Best cheesesteaks in town.
Janice traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for her food truck business. We're here where she needs us most.
They sure are.
We make it so easy for her to save, with customised coverage that grows with her business. Sorry, I just get so emotional talking about saving folks money.
Not this onion I'm chopping?
It's just so beautiful. Oh yeah, no, it's the onion.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
They come to the last 16th of a mile. Denon Bourbon in front. Both sending a huge long shot. Renegade and Golden Tempo are closing too. Here's Golden Tempo. Golden Tempo.
Golden Tempo ends up winning. Did we have one of those?
We did not. That was not one of ours.
We mentioned it. I remember that name coming up.
I had the longest odds, which was like 14 to 1, I think.
What did you go for? You went for...
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
There was somebody that was 14 to 1. It wasn't that one. That one was 23 to 1.
That's right. And the first woman to train a Derby horse won. And she just started in 2018. And she has had a horse actually win the Breeders' Cup in 24. But this is a significant milestone in her career, but also as a role model for all the female trainers out there.
Cherie DeVoe, again, first woman trainer to win the Kentucky Derby. And it was cool. They had a camera spotlight on her. She went
nuts.
She went deservedly so.
Rightfully so.
By the way, Kentucky Derby averaged 19.6 million viewers, the most ever on record watching a Kentucky Derby since Nielsen began tracking audiences back in 1988. They've never pulled a number that high, which blows me away because I've never really cared.
It was one to watch.
More people have access to financial interests now.
Yeah. Okay.
So everybody a $20 bet. Somebody's got to watch it to see what happens.
Everybody's betting the ponies. Yeah, that's why
they're betting everything apparently.
Oh boy. All right, spin it.
Welcome to Toronto, mother.
Yeah, I think you can make me nervous there for a second. Toronto Maple Leafs, they trying to regroup. They missed their first postseason in a decade. So the front office getting shifted around, and new general manager, John Shaika. Now, he's got some ties here with the Utah Mammoth in regards to he was the general manager of the Arizona squad before he was sent packing and our guy took over. So, and he had a lot of issues. He'd been suspended. He lost some draft picks for having combines when he wasn't supposed to. So he's had some issues and had a bit of a reputation around the NHL. And this is his first general manager job since 2020. And as he was introduced at a press conference today, so he's at the podium with the president of the organization. His name is Matt Sundin and Keith Pelly. So Keith Pelly is the CEO of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's the one at the press conference. His brand new general manager, John Shaika, to his right. And this is a question that gets asked by the Toronto media.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say, 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring, and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion than I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
So, yeah, welcome to Toronto. Imagine being at a press conference. It's a big day in your life. You finally get back into the big seat as a general manager. All right, usually these are, touchy-feely, feel-good press conferences. Like, hey, everybody thinks your guy's a sham. He's a con artist. He's a salesman.
He's like, I'm right here.
It's like, hey, guys, I'm here. Can we do this when I'm not here by chance?
It reminds me of a story from my youth. I was put in a position of leadership in a small group of young men on a Sundays. I had a leadership position, and so they come in to give you that authority, I guess, in the class, and so they do a sustaining and say, hey, is everybody good with this? And a dude in the back raised his hand and he said, I don't, because Tim swears. He swears a lot. And he outed me right there in front of everybody.
Like, bro, what are you doing to me here?
Yeah. So that's kind of what that's like.
Oh, man. That got uncomfortable
I feel
fast.
really bad. Con artist.
Salesman. Sham. Everybody says it's a sham. I talked to 20 people.
Well, I must have talked to different people. That was a good answer. And he kept it, and he stuck to it. He'll do his guns. It didn't talk him out of it.
No. All right, one more. Lloyd, spin it.
Stowaway spotted.
All right. This was uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable, so
friendly fire
inside the NBA, when somebody gets bounced from the playoffs, they do a gone fishing. They put a graphic together. We've seen it for decades now. They do a tremendous job, and it's a weird graphic with all different kinds of references to people from the town. And so they did a gone fishing with the Celtics, and they had figures like Ben Affleck was on it, Matt Damon was on this boat fishing. They also had, Bill Simmons. They had a bunch of other people that associated with the Celtics besides the players and coaches. And then on the front, in a front of the boat, in a Titanic pose, was none other than Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. And
too soon?
Maybe, yeah. And honestly, when you get
it's current news,
when you get Charles Barkley to clam up, like he wanted no part of it. Ernie definitely didn't want any part of it. Now, remember, these are all part of the ESPN family, too. And so it just seemed like everybody's like, okay, let's who are those two? Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Awkward, very awkward.
Even they wanted no part of it. So somebody back in the graphics department was having himself a day, and he might get a little bit of a talking to later.
Near, far.
Oh, man. Did you even enjoy that? Did you like that movie?
Didn't see it.
Good for you. Good for you. You didn't have, you and Rachel were probably married at that point.
Oh, yeah, we were married.
Yeah.
I told you, fellas, I'm not a big movie dude.
Yeah.
Just not.
You like the documentaries.
I love documentaries about weird subjects. I love history and crime and, just what makes people tick.
Yeah. One thing that I think when our wives got together and started talking, they are very dialed into the same shows.
Yes, they are. And
so,
again, the beautiful part is they did most of the talking.
Yes, we were on the outside looking in on that thing.
We just got to eat our wonderful meal.
Just had our tacos and our burritos.
You went with the El Paso.
El Paso.
Right.
Can't go wrong with that. Add the shrimp to it, too. If you go to El Matador, add the shrimp to the...
Gots to.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap up this bad boy next. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
The biggest name.
You're locked on to Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Scott Gerard, the coach, Tim Lacombe, Jake and Ben coming up next. Fun show today. Good stuff. A lot of hockey, putting a nice tidy bow on the Mammoth season.
And like anything, emotions are tough, but when you get away from it, you see the growth. And as everybody talked about today, that we talked about with hockey, that this was the plan. Bill talked about this was the playoff year. So everything now, they've tasted it, and it's onward, and it's upward, and hopefully more trips and further into the playoffs until we can get that cup.
All right. So real quick, we try to end the show with Tim giving you a little bit of his expertise. You got game one, 76ers at the Knicks. Knicks rolling this one after Philadelphia spent everything to win that series?
Yes, the Knicks will win. I don't know about roll, but they'll win.
Jalen Brunson's on a heater, man.
I just like Tyrone Maxey so much. I really do. He's one of my favorite dudes to watch.
Averaging on the season 28 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. That's a hell of a line right there.
And then he plays with a guy who's one of my least favorite guys to watch, in Embiid.
Although, dude played well.
No, he played well, but I'm with Jaylen Brown on that piece. He is a flopping dude.
So you got the Knicks 7.5-point favorites. Tonight, San Antonio, a 9.5-point favorite, as Rudy Gobert and the Timberwolves, coming off their round one victory, will head to San Antonio. So I'm assuming you'll take San Antonio. Do you take San Antonio minus the 9.5?
Ant's in tonight, I heard.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you know what? I'm not going to put it past Minnesota to really challenge San Antonio tonight. So I think that Minnesota will cover that number. However, I do believe San Antonio will win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Although I will say the Knicks will cover the 7.5. I think the Knicks.
They will.
I think the Knicks are
cover
going to
that.
just dump trucks.
You think they'll dump truck them?
Yeah. I think that's one where they're like, all right, hey, look what we did. And the Knicks are just sitting back and waiting. As obnoxious as a lot of members of their media are, and nationally, I think we might need to be concerned about a Knicks representation in the NBA Finals.
Well, the Boston ruined that's who Jake and I thought it was going to be all year, especially they played so well without Tatum, and then he came back and they did, but their bugaboo was the three-point shot, just too many of them. When they obviously could have driven the ball and gotten fouled. That's kind of how the Cavs won yesterday.
It just feels like when that's your identity, taking a lot of threes when it goes dry on you, especially in a pivotal game, lights out. Carolina already up 1-0 against the Flyers. Game 2 of that series coming up tonight. And then the Ducks. All right, so our Mammoth fans, are they going to be rooting for the Golden Knights to go far because you want the team that you lost to win and win at a high level? Or do you want them to flame out and you want the Ducks to just beat the crap out of them?
There's a Lacombe on the Ducks, so I have to be loyal to the family.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I watched them shake hands in the line and there wasn't a lot of love lost there. Certainly respect, but not a lot of love. So, no, man, Vegas can go do what Vegas needs to do, but I'm with the Ducks, the mighty Ducks of Anaheim.
Those orange jerseys are disgusting.
They are weird. They are very weird.
Yeah, got to end.
They went with just the bill of the duck.
Jake's with us. Hi, Jake. You sit in here. You're going on the air, big fella.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. I'll go on the air. I like crosstalk.
You getting used to the whole 4 hours afternoon thing?
Oh, yeah. No problem. It's, it used to be home when the kids got home from school. Now it's a little different.
Yeah.
A little more flexible in the morning time.
Yeah, you used to have to do it, but then carrying Gordon around, too.
Oh, yeah. I did that for a while. I don't know about carrying Gordon. Nobody
puts baby in a corner.
Gordon carried me around for sure.
Nobody puts Gordon in a corner.
I heard Gordon on the radio last week. It was awesome. He was on with PK.
Yeah, I love Gordo.
Yeah, the best. All right, you got a busy show, I'm sure.
Yeah, you guys talked a lot of hockey. I'm sure we'll dive into that as well. Play some of that locker room clean out sound. Locker room clean out is so weird because the game just ended, like the playoffs just ended. And then you have availability the next day, which I love, but it turns the page all of a sudden to, I heard you guys played Mackenzie Weegar's, and it was great. But he's like, yeah, the future's awesome, and this is awesome. And it's like, you just got drubbed. You got drubbed.
Like minutes ago.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I love Jake.
I do love locker room clean out. Do you remember when we got, speaking of renovations, we had, I think you were there, Scotty. I'm trying to remember who was on. I certainly was. It might have been me and Tony. I don't remember. Gordon Hayward on for his last interview.
Yeah.
His last interview
and he was so
in Utah.
ticked off to do it, too.
Yeah, he was totally put out. And 4 minutes into it, 3 minutes into it, somebody hit something over with the reno, and remember the internet dropped in the whole building, and all of a sudden, bam, poof, off the air. And Gordon Hayward was like, well, that's it. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not waiting around for you guys. Bam. And he was gone.
He was gone from the studio and the state.
And the state.
Yep. Never to return.
No. So locker room clean out is an interesting situation. I wish it was more formal with the Jazz. I know ship has probably sailed, but
isn't that how Stockton retired that day? Didn't he walk out of locker room clean out and say,
well, back then it was just you outside of a locker room. There was no podium. There was none of that. Everybody was around the Jerry's.
It was after the game you said it.
No, it was the next day.
Okay.
And the team would get together, and some rookie would go have to buy Crown Burgers. And then as they would leave, we would all be by the Jerry Sloan garbage can and just stick a mic in front. And that was the first time I ever did any coverage. It was obviously that 03 season. And I was standing next to David James, not knowing anything of what I was doing. And DJ's like, just put a mic up there. I'll take care of everything else. And Stockton came out and goes, it's been a rough day. And I think DJ goes, why was it hard? He goes, I just told everybody I'm retiring. And everybody's like, oh. And then he just went out the back door, and that was it. No
Yeah.
press conference, nothing. And then Carl was all ticked off because John stole his thunder, so he had to throw himself a party and go to L.A.
Yeah, and Carl's retirement press conference, I'll never forget, ever. It was very long.
Yes.
There were a lot of tears. Threats were made randomly, which was kind of out of the blue. He had seen the X-Men movie, obviously, right before the press conference because he was shouting out the Wolverine and all this stuff. It was wild. I love going back to the old days with Scotty because we used to have to roll live time into the system to make cuts.
Yes.
And I still to this day remember making I gotta go back and roll this in, and then I gotta somehow find cuts out of this rambling, tear-filled
Wolverine.
He says he's like, if you mess with my family, you'll get the Wolverine. We're like, who are you talking about messing with your family?
Coach trying to pay you your due.
Oh, man, that was some weird times, man.
Step back.
And then you hoped your batteries didn't die on your mini disc machine. Yeah. All right. That wraps it up for us. Jake and Ben coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.